Hello guys, welcome to another video. It has been a while, but in this video we are actually going to again solve paper 1 multiple choice questions of principle of accounts. And this one is from May-June 2019. We will again be looking at variant 12, which is 1-2. And this is from the older version, which is 7110. And this one has 30 multiple choice questions in total. So let's get started. And look at all the multiple choice questions one by one. Okay, so starting with multiple choice question one. So question one is basically asking what is the main function of bookkeeping, right? So the main function of bookkeeping. Now, all these options from A to D, they are actually very, very confusing. You might be, as a student doing accounting, you might be wondering that, all the function, all these from A to D are actually true, but you have to pay attention to what the question is asking for, right? So the question is basically asking you what is the main function of bookkeeping. All right, so main function of bookkeeping is actually recording information. So the correct answer to multiple choice one would be option C, because that is where it starts, right? That's the main purpose, where the accountant or the bookkeeper, actually not the accountant, the correct term would be bookkeeper. The bookkeeper is going to record the financial transactions. So again, the keyword here is record, right? So the bookkeeper is not summarizing or interpreting or communicating information. Interpretation would be done by maybe financial analysis. It probably won't be done by bookkeeper until and unless the firm is very small. So again, multiple choice questions may not have the very correct answer, the 100% true answer, but sometimes it would have to be the closer answer. So in this case, the correct answer to multiple choice one would be option C. So the main function of bookkeeping is actually the first function is basically recording the accounting information, and therefore option C is the correct answer. Let's look at multiple choice two, which does not reduce the owner's capital, right? So the keywords, there are two keywords here. So the first one is not, and the other one is owner's capital, right? So what is owner's capital, and how do you think owner's capital will increase or decrease, right? In this case, you have to understand that which option will not reduce owner's capital, right? So owner's capital is impacted by profit of the company, right? So the profit of the company, and profit is impacted by sales revenue and expenses. And of course, there are other items. So let's look at all the options A to D, and then see which one will not reduce the owner's capital. So option A says business expenses paid using a personal check. Now, this actually sounds very true, but let's look at option B, C, and D. We have to be very careful when doing these multiple choice rather than selecting option A right away. So let's look at option B. So option B says cash withdrawn from business bank account for personal use, right? So that is actually going to reduce owner's equity or per se owner's capital. Option C, goods taken from inventory for personal use. Again, this is going to reduce owner's equity. Then option D, personal expenses paid using business cash. Again, this is all. So what the owner is doing is that he's paying or she's paying personal expenses using business cash. So all this is actually going to reduce or impact owner's equity in one way or another, indirectly or directly. So in this case, actually, the correct answer to multiple choice two would be option A, business expenses paid using a personal check. So what this is saying is that somebody is the owner of the company is actually paying for business expenses using a personal money, actually from personal bank account, right? So this will not impact. This is not going to impact on the business. So that's why it's not going to have any. Because it doesn't have any impact, it's not going to reduce owner's capital. So the correct answer to multiple choice two would be option A. Let's look at multiple choice three. So multiple choice three, what would be recorded by a debit entry in a ledger account, right? So a decrease in an asset is credit. An increase in a liability is actually credit. An increase in asset is debit. So again, I would say the correct answer to multiple choice three would be option C, but let's look at option D as well. An increase in capital employed again would be credit. So you see all is credit except one, which is option C. The correct answer to multiple choice 3 would be option C. Let's look at multiple choice 4. In April, Mina sent Ralph invoices for $170, $240, $125, and a credit note for $63. In the same month, Ralph sent Mina a debit note for $70 and a check of $107. Okay. What was the balance on Mina's account in Ralph's book on 1st May? So right now, the first thing here you have to understand is there are two parties that are involved, and you have to determine which one is accounts receivable and which one is accounts payable. The other terms for accounts receivable and accounts payable is trade payable and trade receivables, right? So first you have when you have determined these two things here, which party is accounts receivable and which party is accounts payable, then it would be much easier for you to answer this question, in my opinion. So let's look at what is happening here again. So this question might take a little while, but again, some questions will take a little longer in exams, some questions will take less time, but you still have an hour to finish 30 multiple choice questions, which is fairly enough time to complete the paper. So in April, Mina sent Ralph invoices, right? So what is happening? Mina is sending Ralph invoices. So basically Ralph is purchasing, right? So Ralph is actually is purchasing and Mina is selling, and Mina is actually selling. So Mina is basically Mina is seller and Ralph is a purchaser, right? So what is happening here, right? Right, so you have to understand what is happening here, right? So Ralph needs to pay, and Mina needs to receive. Now, what is question? And Ralph needs to pay, right? So because Ralph needs to pay, Mina is actually an accounts payable, and Ralph is actually an account receivable, right? Is an account receivable. So in Mina's book, Ralph is an accounts receivable, whereas Mina is accounts payable in Ralph's book, right? So in this case, you can actually either it would be option A or option C, because it's asking from Ralph's book's perspective, right? So it's going to be accounts payable, and it will have a credit balance. Now, all you need to do is basically add up 170 plus 240 plus 125, this minus 63. So this is the total. You can actually sum these up. This is the total that Ralph needs to pay. This is the total that Ralph needs to pay. Then you would deduct $107 because this is what Ralph has paid, and this would be the amount Mina will receive from Ralph, and that actually should this number should be actually 365 when you do the math correctly, right? So again, you have to identify which party is which in this case, the correct accounts receivable and correct accounts payable, and just simply need to do the maths, and you will have actually the correct answer. In this case, the 50-50 would be between option A and option C. But because I have done the maths here on my calculator, the correct answer should be option C, 4C, 365 credit. It's credit because Ralph needs to pay Mina, and the question is asking you what would be the balance in Ralph's book, right? So the correct answer to multiple choice 4 would be option C. Let's look at multiple choice 5. So multiple choice 5 is Tahir purchased goods on credit from Yasmin, right? Again, you have to identify what is happening in this transaction. Yasmin is actually selling goods to Tahir. So how did Yasmin record this, right? So Yasmin is selling, so it is about sales, right? So this is about sales. Now it's either option C or option D, right? So whenever there are sales, it has a credit, right? So by looking at this is the account for credit. The correct answer to multiple choice 5 would be option D, right? So you have to make sure that your basics are actually very strong. You understand the debits and credit rules. And if you have any issues with debit and credit, I do have a video on my channel where you can actually watch videos about how to make journal entries and what are the debit and credit rules for different nature of accounts as well, right? So the correct answer in this case for multiple choice 5 would be option D. Let's look at multiple choice 6. So multiple choice 6, Jane invoiced John for goods 5,000. John took a cash discount of 5% and sent Jane a check for the amount due. Which entries will appear in Jane's cash book? So Jane is actually receiving money, right? So Jane is receiving money. So it's either option A or option C now, because the bank needs to be debit, right? So because the cash is going up, bank is going up, which is an asset, and whenever asset goes up, it is a debit, right? So again, you're down to 50-50. Now what is happening is that someone is receiving 5% discount, so the amount is going to be less than 5,000. So amount is going to be less than 5,000, right? So it eliminates option C, and we only come down to option A. So the correct answer to multiple choice 6 would be option A, discount allowed 250 and bank debit 250. Option A would be the correct answer to multiple choice 6. Let's look at multiple choice 7. After receiving her bank statement, Lynn updated her cash book. Which items would reduce the overdrawn balance in the cash book, right? So what is the question asking? So the question is actually asking you, there's an overdrawn balance in her books and what will reduce it? So basically, any cash inflow is going to reduce the overdrawn balance, right? Overdrawn balance will be reduced by cash received. So bank interest received will reduce the cash overdrawn. Credit transfer received will also reduce the overdrawn. Direct debit payment, this is a cash outflow. So this is not going to reduce. So it's only 1 and 2. So the correct answer to multiple choice 7 again would be option A. Let's look at multiple choice 8. So multiple choice 8 again, as you can see from here, you will have to understand which account is which, whether it's a trade receivable, which party is which, basically, whether it's a trade receivable or trade payable. The following account appeared in the ledger of Chan. So Chan has an account in his book, and this account is called Fu account. Right, so look at the balance Fu has. So Fu has a credit balance here. This is a credit balance. Which basically means that Chan needs to pay Fu. So what is Fu? Fu is a liability. It's a payable. So now you have to spot which statement is correct in this case, right? So on 1st March, Chan was owed $100 by Fu. No, Chan was not owed $100 by Fu. Chan owed $100 to Fu. This would be a true statement. So this is actually false. Option B, on 12th March, Fu purchased goods $250 from Chan. No, actually Chan purchased goods. Chan purchased goods. So again, this is also false. Option C, on 28th March, Chan paid Fu $100 by check. So did he? Yes, that is actually correct. So the correct answer to multiple choice 8 would be option C. So on 28th March, there is a credit in the bank. There's a credit in the bank. There's a credit in the bank and debit in Fu's account. So that means that Chan actually paid Fu $100. So this is actually correct statement. So the correct answer to multiple choice 8 would be option C. Let's look at multiple choice 9. After preparing a trial balance, it was found that a check $300 received from Oliver had been debited in Oliver's account and credited in the bank account, right? So understand what would be the correct entry for this transaction first. It would be debit bank and credit Oliver, 300. But what instead was done was this. We debit Oliver and credit bank. right? So the company just reversed the entry. So actually the correct answer in this case would be there wouldn't be any difference between before correcting this error. So there were no other errors, right? Which statement about the trial balance before correcting the error is correct? It's the correct answer to multiple choice 9 is option A. The credit column was equal to debit column because as you can see the entries, it's just the reversal. It's just the reversal. The company just needs to flip the bank and Oliver, but the amount will stay the same. So there won't be any difference in terms of amount. Debits will still be equal to credit. It's just that the nature of accounts has been has gone wrong a little. That's it. But there won't be any imbalance between debits and credits. Let's look at multiple choice 10. So multiple choice 10, Ali's financial year ends on 31st March. During the year end 31st March 2019, Ali paid wages of 42,500. On 31st March 2019, 1,400 wages were accrued. Which general entry records the transfer from the wages account to the income statement on 31st March 2019? So first understand what would be the total expense here, right? So total wages expense would be 4,200, 500 plus 1,400. So that would be 43,900, right? So it's either option B or option D. It can't be option D because you have to transfer the balance from wages account to the income statement. Now, what is wages? Wages is an expense which is going to income statement. So it would be debit income statement and credit wages. So the correct answer to multiple choice 10 would be option B with $4,300,000 debit income statement and credit wages. Let's look at multiple choice 11. So multiple choice 11, a trader created a provision for doubtful debts. Why did he create the provision? To ensure that the money was available to cover bad debts, to ensure that the current assets were not overstated. That is actually correct. To ensure that the matching accrual principles was followed. That is also correct. To ensure that the profit for the year was not overstated. That is also correct. So the correct answer to multiple choice 11 would be option D, which is 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4 statements are actually true. And D would be the correct answer to multiple choice 11. Let's look at multiple choice 12. Which item is revenue expenditure for a manufacturer? So you have to pay attention that it's asking from a manufacturer's perspective. Buying a new office equipment would be actually a capital expenditure. Extending the factory would also be a capital expenditure. Purchasing of motor vehicle would also be a capital expenditure, but repairing machinery would be a revenue expenditure for manufacturer because they would be repairing machine quite often. Manufacturers will be using machinery very often and they would require repairing very often. Therefore, repairing would be a revenue expenditure for them. So in this multiple choice question, you have to understand the difference between capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. And again, if you don't have understanding of that, you can just drop a comment below and then I will explain what is the difference between revenue and capital expenditure. But this is not the purpose of this video. Let's look at multiple choice 13. So multiple choice 13 is asking an item of revenue expenditure was treated as an item of capital expenditure. So it has been misclassified, right? What was the effect of this error? So what happens is that revenue expenditure is actually an expense and capital expenditure actually creates an asset. So what has happened is that there has been less revenue expenditure, which means less expense. So profit has been overstated definitely. So it's either option A or option B, but we need to study the impact on non-current assets as well. Now, because the revenue expenditure item has been treated as capital expenditure, that also means that assets has been overstated, right? So non-current assets have been overstated. Therefore, the correct answer to multiple choice 13 would be option A. Let's look at multiple choice 14. What causes computer equipment to depreciate? Now, right, this question is actually asking you, so depletion is for natural resources, right? So this option A is actually incorrect, but from B to D, students will actually could be very confused which option to pick. But you have to understand the purpose behind this question. Examiner is actually testing you on the definition of depreciation. Depreciation merely occurs because of economic reasons, right? So therefore, the correct answer to multiple choice 14 in this case actually would be option B. Let's look at multiple choice 15. So multiple choice 15 is actually asking you to make the journal entry for depreciation using double declining method, right? So in this case, the question is actually very simple. I'm pretty sure if you have better understanding of depreciation, you will be able to answer this question very well. It's just that you need to pay attention to the dates in this question, and financial accounting dates are very important. And if you don't understand how to make journal entries for depreciation, again, I do have a video on how to make journal entries for depreciation and what depreciation is on my channel. You can actually find that video and just watch that to gain understanding on what depreciation is and how to make the journal entry for depreciation, right? So in this case, the company actually, so this guy, Wayne, has purchased a machinery on 1st January 2017. He has purchased a motor vehicle for $8,000. He depreciates the asset using double declining method or diminishing or reducing balance method at 20% per annum. And the question is asking you to make a journal entry on 31st December 2018. Now, so if you understand depreciation is an expense, so the correct answer would either be option A or option B. It's not going to be option C or option D. So you're already down to 50-50, right? So you have improved your chances to answer this question already by just knowing what would be the journal entry for it. Now you just need to figure out the amount, the correct amount. So first you have to calculate the depreciation for 2017. First, when you have done that, which would be, so you can actually do 8,000 times 20%, that will give you 1,600. And so the net book value at 2017 will be 8,000 minus 1,600. This will give you some X dollar amount. In 2018, you will use this X dollar times 20%, and this will give you actually Y dollar. And this Y dollar is actually, let me do the calculation here, and this comes out as 1280, right? So this will come out as 1280, and the correct answer to multiple choice 15 would be option A. Right, so if you do this, if you follow these steps in here, I'm pretty sure you will get 1280 as an answer for this one. So let's look at multiple choice 16. So multiple choice 16, a check received from D. Poss on a trade receivable was correctly debited to the bank account, but was credited to the account of P. Dawson, a trade receivable, right? So what has happened? So debit bank and credit accounts payable. In the correct entry should be debit bank and credit accounts receivable, right? So this should be the correct entry. This should be the correct entry. Now, what was the effect of correcting this error, right? So what has been done is that accounts payable has been increased or overstated, in other words. So you have to decrease it. When the company is going to correct this error, it's going to decrease its trade receivable and it's going to decrease its trade payables as well. So the correct answer to multiple choice 16 would be option A. Let's look at multiple choice 17. Which items are used to calculate cost of goods sold? So calculate cost of goods sold, actually all you need is carriage on purchases, closing inventory, net purchases, and opening inventory. The correct answer to multiple choice 17 would be option B. It has nothing to do with sales, actually, so you will have to eliminate option C and option D. Again, this has carriage on sales, so option A will also be eliminated. So the correct answer to multiple choice 17 would be option B. Let's look at multiple choice 18. So multiple choice 18 is basically asking you to calculate the gross profit of department Y. So this is department Y, and to calculate the gross profit for department Y, first you need to calculate the net sales. Net sales in this case would be 60K minus the 8K, 52K. And then you have purchases and carriage outwards. Carriage outwards is not going to be taken into account when calculating gross profit. We need the closing inventory. The closing inventory for department Y is 16,000 times 25% because 75% belongs to department X. Once you have this X dollar in here, you will just do 52K minus the X dollar, and that shall give you the gross profit, and this comes out to be as 16K. So the correct answer to multiple choice 18 would be option B. You can simply follow the maths in here. This is not complicated question. You must understand how to calculate gross profit. It is nothing but sales minus cost of goods sold, right? It's just sales minus cost of goods sold. And then that will give you the gross profit. Let's look at multiple choice 19. So multiple choice 19, Muriel had a bank overdraft of 33820 and was owed $2,100 by Ada. Ada paid promptly by check and received 5% cash discount. What was the effect on Muriel's statement of financial position when Ada paid her debt, right? So when she paid her debt, what will happen in this case? Okay, so it's all decrease, right? So current assets are actually going to decrease by 2,100, and current liabilities are going to decrease by 1995 because this is the actual cash received. And then capital is also going to decrease by 105 because this is a discount that was given. So the correct answer to multiple choice 19 would be option C. Let's look at multiple choice 20. So multiple choice 20, on 1st January 2019, a commission receivable account had a credit balance. So this is a commission receivable account which has a credit balance, and this means that the commission was received in advance. So it's either option A or option B. Whenever commission is received in advance, it is going to be a liability and not an asset. So therefore, the correct answer to multiple choice 20 would be option B. Let's look at multiple choice 21. What is an advantage of trading as a partnership? Partnership is a separate legal entity. No, it's not. Decision making is easy and quick. No, because there are partners, there could be fights. Liability is unlimited. No, actually it's a limited liability. So therefore, the correct answer to multiple choice 21 would be option D. Responsibilities are shared. Yes, that is true because you have multiple partners in it. Let's look at multiple choice 22. So multiple choice 22, a golf club sells refreshments to its members. Suppliers of refreshments were owed $250 on 1st January 2018 and $400 on 31st December 2018. Payments to suppliers during the year were $7,200. The inventory at the end of the year was $100 less than the inventory at the start of the year. What was the cost of sales of refreshments for the year ended 31st December 2018? Right, so you have to calculate the cost of sales of refreshments. So the payments made to suppliers were $7,200. The company owed $400 at the year end, so you will have to plus that and then minus the beginning owed, which is $250. This comes out as $7,350. In addition, we will have to make this adjustment of $100, and we'll have to add this $100 to $7,350. And the correct answer would be 7450, which is option D. So the correct answer to multiple choice 22 is option D. Let's look at multiple choice 23. So multiple choice 23, after the preparation of financial statements of a sports club, it was found that no adjustment had been made for subscriptions received for the following financial year. How will correcting this error affect the financial statement? Right, so subscription which have been received for the following year should actually be liability, should be recorded as liability. So when correcting this error, we will actually be increasing liability and decreasing income. So the correct answer to multiple choice 23 would be option B. Let's look at multiple choice 24. 24 is again asking about the value of purchases, which is actually very easy. I will tell you the correct answer, and I won't do the calculation, but I will tell you the correct answer in here. And write down the formulas for you as well. So right, so you will have to actually understand. First, you will have to calculate cost of goods sold, which would be just sales minus gross profit, which are given to you, and then to calculate the purchases, you will have to open up cost of goods sold formula, which is opening inventory plus the purchases minus closing inventory. And so this is the variable, which is X dollars. And when you use this formula to calculate it, you should come to a number which is actually 85,000, which is actually 85,000. So the correct answer to multiple choice 24 is option A. Let's calculate retained earnings in multiple choice 25 because that's the question. And you are given retained earnings at the beginning, you are given net profit. So it would be 12 plus 43, which is 45. There was a transfer to general reserve minus 10, which is 55, 35 actually, not 55. And this is actually 55. So 55 minus 10, this is now 45. Okay, so this should be now correct. Yes, so 12 plus 43 is 55, 55 minus 10, 45. And after retained earnings, so there's a dividend, which is 10% of 200K, which will come to some number, I would say. And then 45 minus that X dollar will give you the retained earnings at the year end. And that comes to, on the calculator, that comes about 25,000. 25,000. So the correct answer to multiple choice 25 is actually option C. So let's look at multiple choice 26. Multiple choice 26. What is not included in the statement of changes in equity of a limited company for the year ended 31st March? So changes in equity, additional shares issued will be included. Interim dividend paid is also part. It's proposed dividend. So this proposed dividend is actually not part of the statement of changes in equity. The correct answer to multiple choice 26 would be option C, because proposed dividend would actually be included in the annual report, but not be part of statement and changes in equity. Let's look at multiple choice 27. Looks as per the requirements, actually a very easy question. A business has sales of $100,000. The expenses are $30,000, and the profit for the year is $20,000. What is the gross profit to sales ratio? So first you need to calculate. This is a little tricky question because first you will have to calculate gross profit. And to calculate gross profit, first you need to calculate the cost of goods sold, and then gross profit, and then calculate gross profit to sales ratio, right? So how you will do that is, so 20 plus 30, right? So 20 plus 30 is 50K. This is your cost of goods sold, right? And the gross profit would be 100 minus 50. Gross profit is 50 over 100 is actually 50%. So this is gross profit and this is sales. It's asking gross profit to sales ratio. The correct answer to multiple choice 27 would be option B. That is 50%. Let's look at multiple choice 28 and 29, which are both about accounting principles. Favorite topic of examiners. At the very end, you will always see accounting principle questions, always. A business prepares its accounts on the basis that it will continue to trade in foreseeable future. This is a very easy question. The answer to multiple choice 28 is option C, which is going concern. That is one of the basic assumptions that is made in accounting when preparing financial statements. Now let's look at multiple choice 29. A check paid by a business for fuel for delivery vehicle was recorded in the books of business. The check paid by the business owner for fuel for his motor vehicle was not recorded in the books of the business. Which accounting principle is being applied in this case? That is accounting entity, because the owner is keeping business and his personal life separate, and that's how it should be. And therefore the correct answer to multiple choice 29 should be option A. It's accounting entity, which highlights that there's a difference between personal and business expenses. Let's look at multiple choice 30, which would be the last multiple choice that we will be solving. Multiple choice 30 is which statement is not correct about reasons for using international accounting standards. No, this is actually a correct statement. International accounting standards, if every company uses international accounting standards, it makes comparison easier. Improves reliability of accounting information. Yes, it does. So it is not going to fall under the not correct. It's a correct statement, narrows the difference. So this is correct. A, B, C is correct. Makes the preparation of financial statements less time consuming. No, it makes it more time consuming because companies now have to follow accounting standards, which are very complicated. You may not study those accounting standards right now, but when you might be doing your CPA or chartered accountancy, that's when you will realize how complicated these accounting standards are. And the correct answer to multiple choice 30 would be option D. And we will conclude our video in here. I hope you liked this video and it was helpful to you in your preparation for O-levels accounting exams. And if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to like it, share, and subscribe. And please comment down below to tell me what accounting topics are bothering you, and you can tell me, and I will make a video on those accounting topics. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much.